TSO Daily. I am your host, Mystic Raven. All right, so I'm still in the process of updating a lot of my builds, and Morrowind, as we know, has brought a lot of changes. So we have to go ahead and take any current build that we're running and make the according adjustments, to be viable in some of these new changes, especially when it comes to resource management. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and update a nice build that I personally like a lot, and that's my Indomitable Stamplar build. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and get into this, and we'll go everything accordingly. Okay, so first thing on, we're going to go into the character sheet on the dual side. You're going to go ahead and see Max Magicka at 10,123. Health is slightly under 20k, 19,740. I always like to stay around the 20k mark, as you guys know. Also, max stam is at a nice 43,969, almost 44,000. I love that. And my stamina recovery is at 1201. And if you look to the you'll see weapon damage at 2,586, and my weapon crit is at 56.6. To the left, you're going to go ahead and see health points allocated at 10, and stamina is allocated at 54, and the Mundus we're running is the Thief, and I'm using max health and max stamina. Okay, now on the bow side, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the character sheet. You're going to see the drop in the max stamina down to almost 40.5. Max health, once again, is 19,740. And stamina recovery remains at 1201. Weapon damage is at 2,288. And weapon crit goes up to 58.6. All right. And that's pretty much the stats. Now let's go ahead and get into the skills. On the bow side, I'm using the Power of Light. Power of Light is really great because what this actually does. Now, sometimes I will unslot this in certain circumstances. So sometimes this will get adjusted, but for the most part, I'll run it and then I'll switch out if needed. But I will use Power of Light accordingly, because what it does is summon an expanding beam of pure sunlight to doom an enemy, dealing 4,449 physical damage to them, and copying all their damage taken for 6 seconds and releasing 20% as an additional physical damage to them. Now, it also applies the Minor Fracture, Minor Breach. Now, this is important, especially if you're in Trials. If you have a Stamplar, you want to go ahead and apply the Minor Fracture, Minor Breach. If anything is under the penetration of 18k, this is a very, very important thing to do to apply this effect. Okay, we're using Poison Injector. This is, simple. It's dealing 5,192 poison damage and an additional 8,615 poison damage over 10 seconds. The damage over time deals up to 260% more damage to enemies under 50% health. I'm going to be using Endless Hail. This is my AoE. It launches multitude of arrows into the sky, rains down, dealing 1,337 physical damage to enemies in the target area every 0.5 seconds for 10 seconds. And I used a binding javelin. This is for my interrupt and for any of my range mechanics. I like this. If you don't want binding javelin, you can throw caltrops on. I just like the binding javelin for interrupt purposes and mechanics. That's why I always slot this. Of course, I also have camouflage hunter on here. That increases my crit percentage. If I take it off, I drop down a little bit too lower than I would like on this side, so it is slotted. Also, keep in mind in the Fighters Guild passive, that is going to also contribute to our increased damage amount by Slayer. Increase your weapon damage by 3% for each Fighter Guild ability slotted. Now, also, we're going to be using the Ballista as our ultimate. This, deals 44,096 physical damage over 5.2 seconds. On the dual bar, we're going with Lightweight Beast Trap. Now, you can use Rearming Trap, but once again, I choose the Lightweight Beast Trap for mechanic purposes. I like to throw it out there if I have to do range mechanics, and it gives me that ranged ability. Versus the rearming. Rearming, I have to be up close, and that's not always possible due to certain mechanics. So I prefer the Lightweight Beast Trap, but if you like Rearming Trap, by all means, go with the rearming. I also use Flying Blade as my builder. This is going to deal 8,092 physical damage, reducing movement speed, but it also is going to grant me Major Brutality, increasing my weapon damage by 20% for 20 seconds. Also keep in mind with Lightweight Beast Trap, I'm going to get the other buff, giving me Minor Force, increasing my critical damage done by 10%. Now, as you're going to notice, I do not have Camouflage Hunter on this bar. Why not? Because I'm going to be using biting jabs as my spam. This gives me the major savage that Camouflage Hunter would typically give me. So when I activate this, that's going to give me the major savagery. All right. Even though I'm losing that 3%, I'm going to go ahead and slot this instead. It's going to give me the major savagery. This allows me to use the Deadly Cloak for another AoE proc, throughout my AoE rotation. I'm also going to use Twin Slashes just for an applied effect for an additional damage to do a bleed effect. Okay, and this needs morphed. And of course, I'm going to try to capitalize on my single target damage as much as possible. So I'm going to put Flawless Dawnbreaker on this side. When we look at the gear, if you guys are familiar with the Indomitable Stamplar build, nothing's changed. The only thing I've done is a few things, but for the people who aren't aware, I use the Hulking Draugrs, and I also use Spriggan's set. Okay, so the Hulking Draugrs you get in Dire Frost. It's a great set because it gives max stamina, max stamina, max stamina, and yes, once again, max stamina. Love this because it gives me a lot of resources, and it increases, not only does it increase my damage, but it also gives me max resources. Now this is the ideal piece. I have the sharpened bow of Hulking Draugrs. I also have Draugrs Wither Edge. This is precise. I actually want this in sharpen. Now it is glyphed with the Crushers enchant, where this is increase enchant. But ideally I want this in sharpen. I have enough crit percentage. I just want to get this in sharpen, but for now I'm using precise. I'm also using the sharpen dagger of Hulking Draugrs. Now this is ideal. So I already got one piece, but I need the other. Okay, so I'm using Moloch Kina's head. That's infused with max stamina. I never take my big pieces and go divine unless I'm needing an extra crit. I am running the Thief Mundus, but my crit is well over 55.5, so I'm going to maximize on the infused pieces. Now, the only reason I use this is I don't use a set on this build. Now, you can if you want. So say if you want to use Veladreth, by all means go with it. If you want to use Krogs, by all means go with it. With this build, I go more burst. So I want to maximize on that 129 weapon damage. That's what the Kina head does, and the Veladreth shoulders. Now keep in mind, my head is heavy and my shoulders are light, so I can maintain the Undaunted passive, which is going to give me a total of 6% for having medium, light, and heavy in slotted. Okay. Also, we're going to be using the Spriggan's Belt. This is in Divine, max stamina. Hands, health glyph, Divine. Hulking Draugrs Guards, infuse stamina. And of course, Hulking Draugrs Boots, Divine, max stamina. My necklace is Spriggan Necklace with regen. My Spriggan's Ring is weapon damage. And of course, my Spriggan's Ring is also recovery. And actually, I do need to enchant that with a little bit more of the boost. Okay. So there we go. That's pretty much how I've set up the build. Now let's get into the champion points here. Now this is kind of important because once again, Morrowind has changed the CP system. So we're going to start off into the ritual, because this is where a bulk of our points is going. So I went 12.45 into Mighty. This is kind of the base of, a lot of my burst damage. Notice I have none in the Thermaturge. I am running Poison Injector and I'm running the Twin Slash, which do have dot effects, but most of my damage is burst damage. So I don't want to allocate any points in the Thermaturge because then I would be taken away from piercing. Even though I'm running Sharpen, and Spriggan's, I still want to put into piercing. I want more penetration. I want to get close up to that 18k mark, taking into consideration that most tanks are going to apply major fracture. That is very, very important because that gets me closer. That's going to increase my damage. So I went 3,250 into piercing, and with precise strikes, I'm going to be critting quite frequently. So I want to capitalize on my crit damage. So we're going to go with 17.45. When we take a look at Physical Weapon Expert, I only put 10.95. That's for my weave damage in between my rotation. And of course, Master of Arms, we're going to capitalize because once again, this is a burst damage and that's at 19%. And of course, I have nothing into the Apprentice. Now, when we go over to the Warrior tree, I put 45 points into Ironclad. This is a damage reduction that, keeps me from dying quite a lot. So I went 17.45, and I split the difference between Hardy and Elemental Defender at 12.45 each, and I had a few points remaining, so I put into 3.86 in the thick skin. A lot of dungeons don't have dot effects, but I did want to reduce some of that damage just in case there are. Also, I want to capitalize on from my healer, so I put healing received at 9.45. Now, when we take a look at the Thief tree, I went 10.22 on the reduction of breaks. I put a few points in the sprinter. Why? Because I'm a stamina user. I'm going to be running up, doing little things, so I want to reduce some of these costs, these upfront costs. So putting a couple points in here is a benefit to, so I'm not bottoming out on simple things like running up to a mob. Okay, so Mooncalf, we went 14%, never go 15. Why? Because of diminishing returns. It's not worth 25 points for 1%. I can allocate those points somewhere else and capitalize a lot better. With that being said, I want to take advantage of my weave between my rotation, and put the tenacity up to 12.45, excuse me. Healthy is at a nice 7.50. I just want to recover, health, in between, my healer. Have a nice amount of health regen. And tumbling, I reduced because I'm going to be rolling in and out of mechanics, so we went 7.40, and that is how we've allocated the champion points. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead, try to pick up the daily, see what it is, reapply my food buff and everything. Now, I do like this build, but like I said, there is flexibility. Like I said, if you don't like the Javelin and you want to go with the Caltrops, by all means, go ahead. Now, here's the deal, guys, and this is another thing I want to point out here. I like, for my Stamplar, I like the biting jabs better than the Flurry. That's me personally. If you want to use Flurry, you can, but I prefer the biting jabs. It has an AoE effect, where the Flurry doesn't. So if everything gets round up, I can hit that biting jabs. I'm also dealing single target damage and an AoE if there's more than one. So it's kind of nice, where I don't have to slot, Steel Tornado or something.
Dire Frost.
Speaking of Dire Frost, okay, that's one of the dailies.
The vampire.
And that's 2. And this should be white gold today. Ruins. I'm definitely not doing that on a pug, but... Okay. 2 and Dire Frost. I don't know if I'm in DPS, so I don't know how fast my queue is going to be honest with you guys. But one thing I really like to do here is I like to go ahead, throw out, hit this. That was a little bit of a lag. Now, if I'm in an AoE situation, I'm always going to hit my this, and then I'll hit that, and then I'll go with the jabs. So that's usually the AoE rotation. Pretty simple. And I'll throw down any effects to increase critical or my brutality too with my daggers. Okay, I don't really need to be in there. Now, disclaimer, it's been a while since I've been on this character, so because I've been working on my wardens and stuff like that.
masters.
Oh shit. I'm taking a lot of damage. Hot. We might want to wait for the tank, or maybe not. No, don't move. No. One second, my dog, guys. Get down.
Nobody disturbs the masters. Light it up.
Over there, it's Maril.
Sudarim, I thought you were dead. They came in the night, overwhelmed us.
Who did this? Where's Atavar?
Now this is a, you know,
Atavar
I don't use this for trials, but it's perfect for like you can run this in normal trials, no problem. And vets works perfect.
Look at the size of that thing.
Why is this tank moving him so much? Oh my god, we don't have a tank! There's no fucking tank is why! What the fuck? What the fuck? He's gone. If I could boot this dude. Bye. See ya.
Vampires? You think they know what they're dealing with?
If not, they're in for a...
See ya, dude. Peace the fuck out. Don't do it, guys. Not worth it. If you're a DPS queuing as a tank, not worth it. Don't queue for a role you cannot play. Do not do it. People like me, we will boot your ass. Especially that. If it's normal, that's one thing, man. You're in a vet, dude. You're completely vet. Okay, that's exactly what I wanted anyways. So we're going to morph this. And I definitely always, you know, I like the rendering slash in PvP, in PvE, blood craze if you need self-sustain. So rendering slash is the best way to go. Unless you're PvPing and, you know, you need some more self-sustains. Yeah, Willie's like, cool, our tank doesn't aggro the boss. Well, of course he doesn't, because he's not a fucking tank. Oh, that's great.
Yes, Brad. The Whisperer is gone.
No, you can't be real. I was going to rescue you, and I heard her voice.
It's over, Branson. You can rest now.
Reapply my food buff. I love the buff indicators.
Listening.
You aren't real. You're one of her illusions. I won't let you stop us.
Why is nothing ever easy?
You're in my nightmare. Now, see?
Shit. I see that one.
No, this is all wrong. I don't want you to see it. Get out of here. I'll take care of this myself.
Now, usually in a situation like this is why I like the beast trap. Oh shit, wrong ulti. A lot of weaving here. Want to pull away a little bit so I don't hit anybody. Usually I will stop DPS. Now if I'm healing, I won't stop healing. I can still throw my heals, but I don't want to risk targeting to a mechanic.
There's someone alive over here. Help me get this cocoon open.
Now, usually on these three, I will use the flawless. Shit, switch out. Shit. Missed. That's my fuck up. Grab it.
Don't let them reach Lord Wintermore.
Oh shit. Wrong button. Where? Ah, shit. Trying to get to him. Hold on, let me clean up these mobs first. It's probably my best bet. I got him, I got him. Keep healing, keep healing. Alright. Like I said, been a while since I've been on this, so my rotation's not quite keen. I love this build though. Love it.
I don't like this.
Wake up. Wake up.
Have to agree with the elf boss. There's some serious magic here. This place screams ambush.
Ambush.
I don't know why they're up there. Usually we pull back. Pull them back. Whatever. Oh, wrong bar. There we go. Kool-Aid. Trying to get... Come on. Get me out of this crap-ass Kool-Aid. Finish this. Yeah, prosperous. Okay, my rotation's a little weaker than what I would like, but I think you guys get the idea of the build and how we set up. And major important thing is muscle memorization definitely comes in play in your rotation. And so making sure you keep up your derated effects is very important, even for me, on a mess up like that. But I play so many tunes that sometimes I even mess up on my rotation, and that can happen. But, keeping derated effects up, keeping whatever, like I said, there are a lot of flexibility. So, for example, I like the binding javelin in certain circumstances, but if you want caltrops on there, that's fine. You can do that. That's more than whatever. Once again, Power of Light I use in a lot of circumstances, but sometimes I will make adjustments. If there's 2 Stamplars in there, it's pointless having 2 Power of Light, so I might go ahead and put on Sniper or something like that for a further reduction or damaging effect. Once again, lightweight Beast Trap. If you like rearming trap, by all means go for it. I like it just because certain mechanics I can't get in close range to, so lightweight Beast Traps kind of fits my need as necessary. Same thing with Flying Daggers. It has a 28 meter range. It comes in handy, especially as a builder, so I really like that. Once again, we are using some dot effects, but I'm trying to keep more to burst, so that's why I don't put in the thermiters. But if you want to capitalize a little bit more on dot end effects, you can go ahead and put a couple of points in the thermiters, get that maybe up to about 6-7% roughly around there, if you want to capitalize a little bit more on that. So this build has flexibility, but pretty much this is how I roll this. It's a great build, and I really enjoy it. But if you have any questions or comments, please post below. I want to thank everybody for watching, and once again and always, have a nice day.